A few months ago, I made a video titled Why I Was Afraid to Watch the Fate series. In it, I said how I decided to give the series a real chance and not be scared off by that terrifying timeline chart. I also talked about my thoughts on Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, and today I'm continuing that journey with Fate Apocrypha. Also, technically, the other video is part 1 of my Fate videos, but I didn't know it was part 1 at the time, so that's why this one is titled part 1. But if you want to see the actual part 1 or part 0 if you will, then I've left links in the description to that video. So anyways, just jumping right in, Fate Apocrypha has the same concept as the other Fate series I watched, which is the Holy Grail War. If you don't know, it's essentially a battle royale between historical figures for the Holy Grail, which will grant you any wish. But it takes that concept and makes it bigger. Instead of 7 masters summoning 7 servants, which was already a lot of characters, Apocrypha has 2 teams, the red team and the black team. Each team has 7 masters that each summon 7 servants, and they work together to take down the other team, and once one team remains, the remaining servants on that team will battle it out until only one remains. So this time around, there are 14 masters and 14 servants. Now, at first, I was kind of excited for the chaos of 14 servants and masters fighting, but there's a problem with that, and that problem is that that's a lot of characters, and only 25 episodes to explore all of them. So what kind of ends up happening is they don't get to focus on each one as much as the other Fate series that only have 7 masters and 7 servants. What's kind of surprising though is that they probably could have focused on all the characters a decent amount if the main 2 characters weren't the main characters. These characters I found pretty boring, and it really made me miss Shiro and Saber, who I had some issues with in the previous video, and they aren't perfect characters, but they're way better than these 2 characters. The main characters I'm talking about are Sieg, a homunculus who gains a sense of self and escapes the masters in the black team who created him, only to be caught up in the Holy Grail War as a master himself. The other one is Ruler, a servant that doesn't have a master who only shows up when a Holy Grail War with 2 teams happen, and they oversee the war and are only allowed to step in when someone breaks the rules, hence the name Ruler. And I just found these characters pretty boring, and because they become the main characters, all of the other heroes don't get as much screen time, when most of them are more interesting than Ruler and Sieg. Normally, I would say you can't really change the main characters in their own series, because at that point it isn't the same series. Like Attack on Titan without Eren as the main character is not the same story anymore. But Fate Apocrypha specifically, there are many characters who feel like main characters. So if Ruler and Sieg were not the main characters, another character could easily be the main character instead, and the story wouldn't change that much. I'm not saying remove them from the show, I'm just saying make another person the main focus of the story. Now, one thing I will say is I think the concept for Sieg's character is interesting. He's a homunculus who was created to serve the black team, but for some reason he gained a sense of self and decided to escape, only to find out that he'll probably only live for a few more years since he's not a real human. So he has to figure out what to do with that time while not really knowing how he should live his life with the little time he has left, since he was literally born a few days ago. He does eventually decide to join the Holy Grail War, and he becomes a master, which is kind of interesting seeing a homunculus in the Holy Grail War as a master, which we have seen before, but I felt that Sieg did more than Ilya or Irisville did in the Fate series that they were from. Although I haven't seen the Stay Night movies, which apparently Ilya is much more of a main character in that one and is much more important. So we'll see, maybe she will do more once I get to that series. But while I think the concept of his character is pretty great on paper, in reality he was kind of boring and felt pretty bland. Same with Ruler. Ruler is not that interesting. While they did some interesting things with Sieg, Ruler has nothing that interesting about her character. She feels like she doesn't belong in the show, which I don't know if that's genius writing, because the Ruler class is only there to observe and only get involved if absolutely necessary. Obviously, she gets involved a lot since she's a main character, but she might be purposely a not interesting character because that's the nature of the Ruler class, to just sit on the sidelines and observe and not get involved in the war if she can help it. So it might either be that, or she may not be a good character, or maybe I just didn't like her. Maybe it's just my preference. Now, even though Ruler and Sieg are the main focus, because there are a lot of really good characters in this show. One of them being a character who is probably my favorite character in all of Fate so far, and he gets focused on a pretty decent amount. His name is Astolfo. If you watched my last Fate video, you would know that Astolfo was my main reason for wanting to watch Apocrypha, and I can safely say he is the best thing about this Fate. He's just so likable and funny, so I was happy that he is one of the more important characters. Honestly, I think Astolfo saved Apocrypha for me, and if he wasn't in it, I would not have liked it very much. Sure, he's not the only character I like, but he stands out as a really good character that made this Fate fun to watch. Because without him and the next character I'm going to talk about, it would have been a pretty boring Fate. Astolfo's also just really cool. I thought he was going to be one of those side characters that just makes a few jokes here and there and not do much else, but I was wrong. Astolfo is awesome. He's the rider class and he rides a hippogriff, which I think is just such a cool mythological creature on its own, and he's not useless at all. He actually does a lot of stuff in the show and is in quite a few fights. But he's just so cool and such a fun character. So I appreciate those of you who told me which Fate Astolfo was in, because he was great and he is the best thing about this Fate, and it was so much fun seeing him on screen, and I already miss him. I want him to be in more Fate series. Unless he is in another Fate series somewhere, that would be kind of cool. Thank you everyone who told me how to find it. Two other great characters who are also pretty fun and actually could have been the main characters instead of Sieg and Ruler are Saber of Red, whose name is Mordred, and their master Kyrie. Mordred is the son of King Arthur, who despite being a girl, was raised as a secret male heir to the throne. And yes, Mordred is the kid of Saber from Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. So right away I was interested in seeing Mordred as a character, because having already seen the previous Fates, I was curious to see what Saber's kid would be like, and I actually liked Mordred more than Saber. Compared to Saber, who's more reserved and respectful, Mordred always speaks her mind, even if what she says is rude, and she really enjoys fighting. And I think Mordred's personality just makes her stand out more than Saber. Also, I think Mordred and her master work great together. He's pretty laid back, but also pretty cool, and I always had fun when they were on screen together, which is why I think they would make great main characters. These were characters who I really wish we could have seen more of, and it really bothered me because the first episode sets up Kyrie and Mordred as the main master-servant duo we follow, but it soon switches to Sieg and Ruler and begins focusing on some of the other servants as well, and Mordred and Kyrie just kind of become side characters who we don't see as much. But I will say, I actually like how Kyrie and Mordred are kind of doing their own thing and not working with any of the other servants, which I guess may not have worked out that well if they were the main characters, since they mostly do their own thing for a decent amount of the show. But I would have liked them to be the main characters regardless. Now, I've gotten pretty far into this video without mentioning the main villain of Apocrypha, so I should probably talk about him. So Fate Zero had Kotamine Kirei, and Unlimited Blade Works had Gilgamesh, but who's the villain here? Well, it's Shiro Kotamine, which was super weird. Since Shiro was the main character in Unlimited Blade Works, I get that it's a different universe, but why not use a different character as a villain? Because there are times when I genuinely forgot he was the bad guy, and I was like, oh, why is Shiro doing these bad things? He's supposed to be the good guy. Oh, yeah, it's a different universe. But anyways, getting into what Shiro does in Apocrypha, because he's completely different in Apocrypha than in Unlimited Blade Works. But Shiro, as it turns out, is also the ruler class. But he just decided to do whatever he wanted and ignore the rules of the Holy Grail War, which, by the way, there is literally no repercussions for breaking those rules. So Ruler, who for the entire series has been saying she can't interfere unless she absolutely has to, could have interfered whenever she wanted, but Shiro being there is what makes Ruler get so involved in the war, because he's abusing his power as a ruler, so I guess it does make sense. But I actually thought Shiro was a pretty terrible villain. He's not interesting. He kind of feels like a more boring version of Kotamine from Fate Zero, which kind of sucks because I was interested to see what they would do with him, but they don't really do much with him. It really does feel like they kind of copy and pasted Kotamine and just made him look like Shiro. It just felt sort of lazy to me. Also, Shiro has Assassin of Red at his side all the time, and she just wasn't that great either. She was just really pretty boring. Like, I don't think I have much else to say about Assassin of Red. She was just kind of boring. Overall, I think the villain was pretty weak in this Fate, and it made me miss the other villains. Now, there are a few more interesting characters. It's not just filled with boring characters and 3 good ones, but since this video is already getting pretty long, I'll go over the rest of the characters briefly. Achilles was pretty cool and kind of funny. I thought the relationship between him and Archer of Black, whose name I can't remember, was pretty interesting. Like how they were master and student, but because they're on different teams, they have to fight, and they had some pretty good fights throughout the show. Also, I liked Archer of Black's master. She wants to win so she can walk again, and is willing to do anything to win. But she's actually a really nice person, which I thought the whole thing about how a mage can't be nice was a little weird, but I still liked her character, and I think she had potential to be the main character too. Lancer of Black, or Vlad the Impaler, was really cool. Now, if you studied history or did a quick Google search, which is definitely not what I did, this is the guy who Dracula is based on. And it's interesting seeing how much he hates that his legacy was to be known as a blood-sucking monster, so he absolutely despises the legend of Dracula. Which makes me wonder what other people throughout history, if they were alive today, would they be happy with how they've been remembered? It's definitely something interesting to think about. And Lancer of Black was really cool, and that's someone who I wish we could have seen more of, because I don't think he's in it very much. Also, of course, since it's anime, a famous serial killer and a monster were turned into cute anime girls. One of them is Berserker of Black, who is Frankenstein. She was actually pretty good. She didn't talk much, but she was in some pretty cool fights, and was a cool character overall. But I wish she was in it more. Also, her master wasn't bad. Now, the serial killer is Jack the Ripper, who is an actual child. She was okay, she wasn't in it very much, and when she showed up, it was just to cause problems for everyone, regardless of what team they were on. And she also made the Archer of Red hate Ruler so they could have a final battle at the end of the show, which honestly felt very forced. Another character who I didn't expect to like that much is Castor of Red. He's Shakespeare, which might sound a little silly, but he does actually have some powers. And yes, they involve writing. He was pretty funny and just kind of goofy, and all around I just really liked him. Man, I swear Fate is the only series that can have Frankenstein, Jack the Ripper, Dracula, and Shakespeare all in the same show and fighting each other. Now, as I was saying earlier, this Fate has a lot of characters, which means that not all of them are great. And pretty much every other character I'm going to talk about is not good, and some of them literally exist just to die. Archer of Red for me was pretty annoying, and I felt the grudge she holds against Ruler was very forced, and I didn't really care about it at all. I won't get into what the grudge is, but she starts hating her, and I thought it was kind of silly and just felt like it was just created just so Ruler would have someone to face off against. Berserker of Red, in the first few episodes, he charges the enemy's base alone and dies. And from that point onwards, he's basically just a puppet for the Black team since their caster can control puppets. And speaking of, Castor of Black is pretty much throwaway too. He's not interesting and only exists to do one thing, which I won't spoil, just in case you haven't seen it and you've made it this far with me talking about all the characters. Lancer of Red kind of sucks too. He's pretty boring and barely talked in the show, so it was hard to care about him. But on the other hand, he's in one of the best fight scenes in the show, so he is at the very least very cool in fights. Saber of Black is a throwaway character who basically exists to give Sieg motivation to live, and to do some other weird stuff that I won't get into because of spoilers. And then every other master is so forgettable that I don't really have anything to say about them. Honestly, I kind of wish this Fate in particular embraced being one of those turn your brain off fun battle royale anime. I'm sure some people are going to disagree with this take, but I feel with how big this Fate was, with how many characters it had, it would have been more fun watching if they just had fun with it and it was less serious. Because the best characters in Apocrypha are the fun characters, and the more serious ones are kind of boring. Now, I'm not saying every Fate should be a turn your brain off fun battle royale anime, because the first 2 I watched are actually really solid shows with pretty interesting stories, and they aren't turn your brain off battle royale type anime, and neither is Apocrypha. But Apocrypha could have been more entertaining if it was more like a turn your brain off fun battle royale anime. Also, Apocrypha, as it is now, is still a good Fate anime. Astolfo and Mordred are great, and they're in the show a decent amount. A lot of the other servants are pretty cool too, and the animation and fight scenes are pretty good. I think the overall story isn't amazing, but it's not awful. And while there are a lot of characters I found boring, they may be characters that you really like. That's the really cool thing about a show with this many characters, is that there's something for everyone. I'm sure some of the characters that I didn't like, someone else will like them. Also, the boring characters aren't that bad. Like, I never found myself starting to hate the show when a character I thought was boring came on screen. And I was pretty entertained even if the episode I'm watching is focusing mainly on Ruler and Sieg. That episode won't be as good as the one focusing on Astolfo, but it doesn't make the episode bad or the whole show bad. Apocrypha is a good Fate series. Is it as good as the other Fate series I watched? No, but it's not bad. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.